Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to Let's Play Jon Shafers at the Gates. This is a game that I've actually put about 25 hours into so far. It's incredibly fun. I really enjoy this game, and I want to spend a little bit of time not only playing it, but also giving you a basic overview of the game mechanics and how things work in the game. So that if you choose to get the game, which I definitely recommend it if you're into games like, Civilization and 4X games, this takes a completely different approach to the normal sort of 4X genre. And when we get into the game, we'll kind of explain a little bit more. So we're going to start a new game here. I've already unlocked a few of the extra tribes in the game, but I think I'm going to stick with the basic tribe, the Goths, because that's what you're most likely going to play when you start playing the game. So the Goths, their unique ability is that they start with 15 food and 100 treasure when the default is 10 and 40. Now, there are other clans in the game. For example, the Huns. I already have the Vandals unlocked. The Vandals get extra money and food from Rome, and they also have a permanent alliance with Rome. There's the Picts. I think they start the game with 8 clans when you normally start with 3. Then there's the Lombards. They have to build buildings to gather resources. So basically, these tribes kind of define how you're going to play the game. Like, for example, the Saxons start the game next to an ocean with a free galley, which is very interesting. And then the Slavs, I believe, they no longer require supply except for when they're inside enemy borders, which is really interesting. But we're going to play as the Goths because they are the sort of vanilla faction, and they start off with a little bit of extra resources, which makes the early game a little bit easier. Now, one thing I do have to say is I have a very powerful knack of finding extremely weird crashes in this game. If you go on like the bug report forums for this thing, if I look at my email with Jon Shafers, it's literally just me just being like, hey, I found a weird crash, and like nobody else in the world found this crash, but it's like PotatoMcWhiskey's playing my game, and it's like he found literally every crash in existence. So let's talk about what we're looking at here. So this is the map as you would expect. There's no mini map. You don't really need one in this game. And the map is very interesting because the map actually changes with the seasons. Certain tiles will get colder, which means people need to be inside your borders to be able to work, or else they'll get cold and have to encamp and they can't work for a turn, for example. And what we're seeing here is a lot of brush. These sort of little trees are where forests used to be. They have similar impediments to forests, that makes it harder to move through. And so on and so forth. And then we have hills with mines and stuff like that. And we could see one of the really interesting things about this game is we can actually see into the fog when you start the game. You get a little bit of knowledge about what's out there. So, for example, over here we can see there's an unidentified animal over here. So we could send an early game hunter, for example, to go over here and explore that and maybe find out what they are. And there's another animal over here. There's some berries over here. There's unidentified minerals. So based on our starting position, I can see that we're probably going to want to get a digger fairly early and a gatherer to harvest these berries for food. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. There's also a deserted village over here that we're going to want to send a explorer to go check that out and maybe get a reward from it. So the very first thing you're going to want to do is go check out your clans. So we have here Clan Malfred. They have Green Thumb and Apathetic. So we'll spend a little bit of time talking about this. Green Thumb means they start with 2 levels in the agriculture discipline, which means it's easier to train them to be farmers or bread makers or anything within the profession tree of, or within the discipline of agriculture. And they're also apathetic. This means they don't gain any experience. They never have any desires. Desires are basically, every now and again, your clan will say, hey, I want this. Desires can be, for example, if they get into a fight with another clan, which is the feuds thing here. If they get into a fight with another clan, they will want you to punish that other clan. And then if you punish that other clan, these guys will be happy. And the other thing they don't do is they don't engage in feuds. And feuds are a thing when 2 clans are on the same tile. There's a chance for them to feud. Certain clans have traits that make them more likely to engage in feuds. So what I like to do, and this kind of goes towards the amazingness of the UI in this game. It's genuinely the best, probably the best UI I've ever seen in the game, because I can hover over apathetic and be like, okay, I see that all this information is here, but what is this? What is experience? And I can hover over experience. It says clans gain 1 experience point, and it tells me what experience is. I can be like, okay, but what are disciplines? And I can hover over disciplines, and it tells me what disciplines are. And I'm like, oh, what is the agriculture discipline? Because that's related to these guys. And then you can see all the, you can kind of go deep into the thing and find, and you like, you can sit here and not have to go to, for example, a civipedia, which you might have to do in a civilization game, for example. And you can find out everything you need to do, you need to know about all the game mechanics that these clans interact with from just looking at the clan screen. And that's something I really, really love about the game. It's sort of like having the tutorial integrated into the UI, and it's something I think is wonderful. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click on Clan Malfred and set them to be, let me see, do they get upset if they're, yeah, so you can see here, they're likely to get upset if they're forced into a profession outside of agriculture. So that means what we want to do is you want to set these guys to be agri slash settled. And what this means is, this is my own little designation system that I came up with myself. This means they want to be agriculture, and settled means they don't get into fights with other clans. And they don't commit crimes. They don't commit crime or engage in feuds. So that's what I use that designation for. So these guys are very, very good at either being farmers, and they're also quite good at cooperating with other clans. They don't get into fights, which is really, really helpful. So let's go check out our next clan. The next clan is Clan Hagius, and they are aggressive. So they do 25% more damage. They have desires more often. They do engage in feuds, and they do engage in brawls. These guys commit feuds and crimes. They're also vigorous, which means they have +1 move point. So that means I'm going to want to mark these guys with a red, and I'm going to say feud slash crime. And basically, this just tells me that this clan is better off working on their own. And I get to know what specific things they commit, because there are certain abilities that let you block crime. So you could have someone maybe who doesn't have the feud, but you have a crime blocker nearby, and you can still use them as if they were my own designation of settled. I'm probably going to want to make these guys into hunters and get them out in the field as soon as possible, just to kind of get them away from my other clans. Then we have Einar, who are woodsmen. That means they don't have any extra movement points for entering into forest, brush, forest, and brush tiles. And they are dutiful, so they start with 4 levels in honor. They don't gain any experience in discovery. They never have desires, and they never engage with feuds. They never engage in brawls either, and they are likely to get upset if they're forced into a thing outside of honor. So we're going to set these guys to honor slash mobile. And the mobile designation is just basically what I set if somebody has some sort of bonus towards movement. So they're honor slash mobile. Well, actually, what I should really do is honor slash settled, because these guys are quite cooperative. They don't engage in feuds, they don't engage in crime, so they're going to be able to be kept inside of our settlement. So what we're going to do is, now that we have sort of set up how we view our clans, let's start making decisions about how we want to use them. So I think I'm going to use these guys as a hunter, because the hunter is like the basic early game military unit. What I'm going to do is, first I'm going to train Clan Malfred as a gatherer to go gather berries. Then I'm going to study honor, so that I can, when you study honor, this is the tech tree, by the way. I'm gonna make it smaller to make it simpler. You can show like the entire tech tree if you want, but I'll just try and keep it as simple as possible. The first, when you study the first sort of prerequisite tech in a tech tree, there's 6 tech trees here. They all relate to different areas that your clans can participate in. When you research the honor tech, you get to be able to give 2 free levels in the honor discipline to a clan. So we're going to research honor and then end the turn. And you can see over here on the left, we do have 15 turns of food stored up, but we are losing 1 food per turn because we're not gathering any food. And that's why we built the gatherer, to go take care of that problem. And I'm going to send the gatherer over to these berries to start collecting berries. We also have a new clan join us. This is Clan Loom. They are leprous and they are reclusive. So these guys are actually quite cooperative, but they want to be on their own. So I'm just going to designate these guys as loner. And the basic, that designation just basically means I want them away from other clans. So now that we have researched honor, we can switch the discipline of Clan Hagius here to honor, and we're going to immediately send them out as hunters. That will research there. I think for Clan Loom, I'm going to use them as explorers. And so if I'm going to use them as explorers, what I want to do is I want to research discovery. And what this will do is it'll give me the ability to give them 2 free levels in discovery so I can get them trained that little bit quicker. And there we go. We have our hunter. So what we're going to do is we're going to go see if we can reveal what's going on with these livestock animals over here. We're going to forage for berries, and you can see now we're gaining +2 food per turn. How the food works is a fairly simplified system. Basically, your clans eat a certain amount of food every turn, and then you gather a certain amount of food every turn. The ratio of consumption to production determines how many turns of stored food you lose. Right now, we're producing 2 times as much food as we're consuming. So we're gaining +2 turns of food storage every turn. And we'll talk a little bit more about this once we start seeing this number turn yellow. So we have a Green Thumb reclusive clan. These guys are likely to fit inside the agriculture profession. So we'll set them to be... they're also reclusive. So we're going to designate these guys as agri settled because they don't engage in feuds. Now we can switch the discipline of Clan Loom to discovery and then train them as explorers in 1 turn. Normally when you train someone it takes a while, but because these guys are reclusive, they train twice as fast as normal for active professions. And we want to get these guys out of here because they are leprous, which means they're making everyone else in my settlement a little bit upset. So we don't really have enough information to make a decision about what we want to do next. I could turn some guys into soldiers. I usually like to get my wood production up in the early game, but I think I also want to get metal workers. So I think I might have to wait until I have a viable clan for that. Right now what I'll do is I'll just research agriculture so that I can give the Pepijin plus 2 levels of agriculture here. So these guys have a negative power modifier. They lost some morale. I'm not sure why they lost morale. I'm going to send them over to identify this herd of animals. And I'm going to send the explorer to go check out this deserted village. It's basically like tribal villages from Civ. And we can give these guys plus 2 levels in agriculture, so now they're level 4. And what I might do, I don't really have a job I can give these guys that's particularly useful right now. So I might just... let's see. I could make Feast Masters. I'd have to buy 5 alcohol. You know what? I'm going to go for Feast Masters here. And I'd have to try and see if I can get my hands on some alcohol to turn these guys into Feast Masters. Otherwise, I might turn them into soldiers. So let's see. I think I might just produce treasure here so that I can trade with the caravan when it comes. So you'll notice that these guys' flags turned red, which means they're out of supply. And there's 2 ways to fix this problem. You can either move them into a tile that has a green, sort of these 3 little boxes designate supply. We can either move them into these tiles, or, so that means they're back in supply and they won't have any problems. Or for in the case of these guys, where I want them to sit still, I can encamp them. Now, encamping does hurt their defensive power. As you see here, they have a power 1.4 because their morale is hurt. Why is their morale hurt? I'm not sure. But what we're going to do is we're going to encamp them. And that'll mean they will sort of supply themselves for a turn. We have a new clan here. These guys are handy, which is really, really useful because these guys are going to be craft / what is their other one? The woodsman. So we'll just call them craft / settled, since they don't have any particular feuds or crimes like that they do. I'm going to train Clan Adelfried as a wood collector, because wood tends to be what you use in the early game to trade for other stuff, because it's just like the easiest thing you can produce without investments of tools or more advanced materials. We're going to finish the turn here. And here is the first caravan. I'm going to send the wood collectors out to this forest right here and get them gathering. Next turn, you're going to explore up this way. It looks like it's raining on these tiles, which basically means that it costs more movement to move through these tiles. You can see there's rain right here. Normally it takes 1 movement point to enter, but because it's raining, it'll take 2. So it kind of cuts into your movement. Okay, so we found a map that reveals other deserted buildings nearby. So there's one over here and there's one down here. We're gonna go check those out. This clan is idle, and one of the interesting things is you can just click on this, or you can actually use hotkeys to change how you want them to do things. So for example, if I just tell them to identify the deposit, what they'll do is every turn they have supply, they'll identify it, and then if they run out of supply, they'll encamp and give themselves supply. I can tell them to identify until they run out of supply, or I can tell them to ignore supply and just get it identified as quickly as possible. I kind of want them to just identify it, but I don't want them to take any damage from being out of supply, so I'm just going to tell them to do it the regular way. Just do a regular identify deposit. It's a really lovely to see that I don't have to micromanage my units to that level. So we did find the 5 alcohol that we were hoping for, so I'm going to buy that for 40 so that I can train a feast master when I finish this. The feast master we'll talk a little bit more about. We could sell stone blocks. We don't have any. I'd like to buy some tools too, but I do also want to upgrade the caravan here. You can see here, you can spend treasure to bribe the caravan to bring a more diverse quantity of goods. So if I sort of invest into the caravan here, in the future, they're more likely to have animals. They'll reliably bring me cloth, parchment, weapons, tools, and timber, and they will sometimes have wool, flax, iron, and sort of that stuff. So I'm going to upgrade the caravan because it only costs 10 gold, which is a pretty reasonable price. Now the question here is, do I want to go for tools or do I want to go for weapons? And I think it makes sense here to go for tools. I don't need to buy food because I have food generation here in the form of this gatherer. So I'm just going to get some tools because tools can be used to train more advanced classes, and they can also be used to tools can also be used to upgrade people, and we'll talk a little bit about that when it comes up. So there's a lot of buttons in here that I should probably spend a moment exploring. You can click on clans to select them and do something with them. You can also choose a profession and then choose a clan. Like if I want to train a gatherer, these guys will take 2 turns, this guy will take 1 turn. I can train a clan in a discipline. So for example, if I wanted to level up Clan Pepagin, I could click upgrade their discipline, then click on them. Now I could switch them to honor, livestock, or I could upgrade their agriculture, but that does require parchment, which is kind of like your scholarly or learning resource. This button here is basically if you don't have anything to do with your settlement, you can produce a little bit of gold. Then there's ennoble clan, increase clan limit, and declare kingdom. We'll talk a little bit more about these buttons when they come up, but for now we're just going to produce some treasure. All right, so you can see over here there's new little events popping up on the right. We can now train feast masters. What we're going to do is we're going to take Clan Einar and we're going to train them as a feast master. This will take 1 turn. Now if I were to try to train Clan Peppigen as a Feastmaster, they can't, because the Feastmaster is a social profession, and these guys have the reclusive trait, which means they can't be trained in social professions. Social professions, generally speaking, revolve around generating knowledge, which is used to research new technologies. Fame, which is used, which is like your growth resource. It's kind of like how you get new clans. If you're more famous, you get more clans. And then it was knowledge, fame, and gold. Those are the three things social professions are usually sort of generating around. So we want to train a Feastmaster because they are dutiful and they are already in the honor profession, and that will give me some increased fame generation here. You can see here we're generating a base of 4 fame per turn. If we go up to 14, we'll generate new clans more quickly, which means we'll be able to do more stuff on the map. So these guys are idle. I'm going to forage, and I'm actually also considering going here to the oh, well, I don't want to research crafting yet because I would waste the boost. So I want to see if the next guys are compatible. But I think it would be worth my while to maybe pick up traders. Do we have any locations that we could place a trading hut? And it looks like we don't have any rivers. So trading huts have to be placed on river mouths or where rivers connect to each other. So I think for now, it might be a good idea I could either train those other guys as a farmer, but I would have to spend wood to build the farms with them, or I could train them as harvesters and they'd provide passive benefits to my other gatherers. I tell you what, we'll just research guides, because they're a really useful early game profession to be able to generate more resources. Basically, they make all of your foragers gather more stuff. We have a new clan. These guys are nomadic, which means they start in the livestock profession and they have +1 move in the livestock discipline. They have +1 move point and they add 3 horses to my stockpile, which is nice. I have those 3 horses over there now. They would prefer to be in the livestock profession. They're also sensitive, so they are feuders. So I'll call these guys livestock/feud. Is it EUD or UED? I can never remember. It's EUD, right? Feud. These guys are livestock/feud. So we're going to actually switch off from researching guides. You don't lose any invested points, and we're going to want to learn some livestock stuff because I want to train these guys as trappers so they can go gather some resources from the local wildlife. Okay, let's send our explorer back this way because there are some villages over here that we can get rewards from that I want to go check out. Our settlement is idle. I don't really have something I can do with these guys just yet, so I'm going to just produce treasure. And that little bit of treasure will go towards improving what we can buy at the caravan. I do need a clan who I can turn into diggers. So we can switch a clan's profession to livestock. So we're going to give these guys a +2 levels in livestock, so that they're level 4, which is just a small little efficiency thing. We're going to continue to explore with these guys. We want to get over to this. The settlement is idle. I can't really do anything yet, so I'm going to keep producing treasure. And what I want to learn here is the trapper profession, because they can basically sort of consume a herd of animals to give me some cloth or parchment. And cloth and parchment are actually very useful resources in the early game. So one of the really interesting things in this game is you can actually pack up your settlement and move it around until you found a kingdom. So we have a dabbler, who has given us +5 tools. So now we have 10 tools. They're also a haggler. I kind of wish I could turn these guys into traders, but because they have the dabbler thing, I'm going to have to train them as a metalworker. Although we do kind of want a metalworker, so I'll just call them metalwork. I kind of like the darker blue. I don't know. This is the personal preference. So we're going to train these guys as diggers. We're going to quickly switch away from trappers and just put one turn into metalworking so that we can give these guys +2 levels in metalworking. And you can see now that our clan count is starting to increase. Let me deselect this guy so you can see that a little bit better. Because our clan count has increased, we're now consuming more food, so we're producing less excess food. And you can see resource deposits in this game actually deplete over time when you're using forager or low tier buildings. So for example here, you can see if we hover over the berries here, we've got another 11 turns of gathering from. And also at this forest over here, you can see there's another 9 turns worth of gathering with this wood collector. Let's pop up onto the hill because the hill gives you more knowledge of the surrounding area. Looks like we've got pretty good mineral deposits, but we're pretty light on food and wood. So that might be a problem. We might have to designate an area over here as a woodworks. And actually, this right here is going to be where I put the woodworks. And so I want to actually stop gathering from this forest because I don't want to deplete it for when I place the woodworks. So I'm going to send these guys over here to forage from this tile instead. And since I don't have a huge amount of wood in my area, I might want to upgrade these guys to make them more efficient. So the basic idea here is the woodworks is the sort of end tier wood gathering building. Since I don't have a lot of forests, I want to make sure I preserve a good place for a woodworks. It's the end tier building for wood, which does not deplete the forests around it. And you want to have a sort of clump of 7 forests like this with a forest in the middle and then a forest touching every other tile. And one of the really things I love about this game is you can just like right click the map and be like, what's this? And then like put it in blue, you know, what's this over here? Or, you know, like it's just a really great mechanic that you can be like, like, oh, there's a choke point. You know what I mean? Like you can just mark stuff on the map and make notes for yourself just by right clicking. It's so wonderful. I really like it. So we have our livestock guy. We're going to train this guy as a digger, and then we'll give him the free level next turn. So we have a few things we want to talk about this turn. First, let's take care of switching these guys to metalworking. Oh, I need to put them back inside the settlement because when they're trained in an active profession, they automatically leave the settlement. So we're going to re-enter the settlement. We're going to choose them for the upgrades, another level 3. And then we're going to tell them to leave and immediately jump up here and start identifying this mineral deposit. We've got our explorer over here. We want to send him up towards this and we want him to end in a green tile so that he has supply next turn. We got a new clan. This is Clan Theobald. They are sullen, which is they never get better than upset. They gain experience in all discipline at a slower rate. They have lower chance of having desires, and they never engage in feuds. They're also obstinate, which they take twice as long to be trained in honor. They earn less experience and have more desires. This also gives them a feud, but I think these two cancel each other out to the point where the one that says they never feud has priority. So we can call these guys settled. And settled is basically my designation for somebody who is flexible and I can use them for whatever I want. So did we finish studying trappers? No, we want to study that now. So my settlement is idle. I have a few people sitting around here, but I'm just going to keep producing treasure. And the other thing I wanted to talk about here is that once you have 24 turns worth of food stored, which is a full year's worth of food, each turn in this game represents about half of a month. And so when you have 24 turns of food stored, your food surplus gets halved. So even though we're producing 0.6 turns of food surplus, it's getting halved because we have a whole year of storage, so some of it is spoiling. It's sort of just to prevent you from snowballing too hard with food. So what we can actually do is we can preserve our berries here, and just tell her to encamp until spring by pressing Control and E. And so we'll make it through the winter without gathering any food, but it'll mean that we're not wasting some of the efficiency of the food gathering. We don't need any more food, so we'll just tell them to not do anything. That's something interesting with this game. Sometimes it's a good idea to tell people to stop doing a thing, which makes it very engaging and fun to play around. So here comes the pre-winter caravan. Typically, the caravan that comes before winter is going to bring some very, very useful stuff. And you need to keep in mind, the caravan usually doesn't come again until spring. So that's about 10 to 12 turns. It's about half a year before you'll see it again. I think it comes like 3 times a year, roughly. So what we could do, we have a few choices here that we can do. We could sell off our timber to make some money, to buy some other things. We could also upgrade the caravan again, and if we upgrade the caravan again, they're more likely to have goods that we'll need. Very occasionally, they'll have some extra salt armor and stone blocks, and we actually do want to get our hands on those stone blocks because those are really, really important. So I'm going to upgrade this caravan again, and there we go. Something else we're going to want to have 5 cloth, because that'll allow us to upgrade our clan limit immediately. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. I think I'm going to sell these 3 horses just for the little bit of money. I think I'm going to sell the timber for a little bit of extra money. And then I might go ahead and just leave it at that. So we have a little bit of money saved so we can buy some stone blocks, which will sort of allow us to settle down. My personal strategy in this game is to try to rush stone buildings. But it's not always the easiest or most possible thing, because you have to keep in mind the sort of situation that you're in the game. So again, we're just going to tell her to tell Malfred, I don't know it's a her, but the picture's a man. We're going to tell them to wait until the spring. So I thought I'd given them that encampment order. Maybe I didn't press the buttons correctly. So we know, the reason I moved here is because we know we have a green tile we can end on. Okay, this is a bandit camp. We're going to want to take that out, so we should probably buy 5 weapons if we can, so that we can train an archer to take this out. And I think these guys are probably better off. We already have a food source in the form of these 2 berry bushes, so we don't need to actually harvest herds of animals for food with a hunter. So we'll probably research archers after this, turn these guys into archers, and then use them to clear this barb camp. We'll explore here, and we got a little bit of extra money, which kind of covers the cost of the weapons there. So I think we're going to increase the clan limit. This button costs 5 cloth, and then it doubles every time you click it. So it goes like 5, 10, 20, 40, 80, 160. Sort of, I think it's like that, I can't remember. But basically, this will allow us to have 6 extra clans, because we're 3 clans away from our clan limit. So we're going to increase the clan limit by 6, and now we can have up to 19 clans, which is basically like our settlers. Think of it like housing in Civ 6, right? So I think we're off to a pretty good start. We'll spend a little bit of time in winter next year, and in the next episode. We got a few turns in. I hope you guys are really enjoying this game. I've been having a ton of fun playing this game. It's very, very interesting. It's very, very fun. It has a lot of really cool mechanics. I think there are some little issues I have with the game, mainly to do with the game's balance. But I think, in fairness, this game, I'm playing an unfinished build of the game, and the game isn't fully released yet. It is releasing. By the time this video comes out, the game should be released. I don't know if there's going to be a patch for day 1 that might fix some of the issues that I have with the game. So I don't want to, sort of give my full thing there. But I'm certainly having a lot of fun with this game, and I really recommend, if it looks interesting to you, I would super recommend you check it out. Jon Shafers has been doing a really, really great job working on the game. Now, it has been a long time coming, to be fair, but, you can read all about his blog post about why the game took so long, and, the struggles of development and all that sort of stuff. What was I going to say? Yeah, I would certainly consider checking this game out, because he has shown that he's committed to delivering the game that he wants to deliver, even if it did you know, take 7 years or something. I remember I originally started watching those videos a good 3 or 4 years ago of Jon himself playing the game on YouTube. But you know, that's enough of that, right? I want to thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. Please remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. Remember to leave a like if you want to directly support my channel. And remember to leave a comment if you want to give me your feedback. Other than that, I want to say I love you all very much. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.